might remember 2 weeks ago when we harvested these delectable flowers and made them into dandelion fritters. Today, we're going to dig up dandelion roots. We are going to be learning how to make dandelion coffee, otherwise known as dandelion tea. It's not actually coffee and it doesn't actually have caffeine in it, but some people say that it tastes kind of similar to coffee or it makes a good coffee substitute. So what you're going to need is your digging stick, and you want to head to a field where there's some good dandelions coming up. So dandelions are kind of hard to dig up because you have to dig straight down and the root is slightly fragile, so it's easy to break. You want to get the whole thing. As you can see, my last one here, I was trying to get the whole root, but I still managed to break it a little bit. I was being a little hasty. And what we're going to do is we're going to attempt to loosen the ground in a circle all the way around the root, and then we'll pull the root straight up. And you can see that here I have a dandelion with these toothy looking leaves and the hollow stem. But right next to it there's a hairy cat's ear, the imposter, with the hairy leaves and the kind of rounded lumps. I do not want that. I want this. So I'm gonna start by just getting a little twisting motion going. Basically just trying to dig a hole straight down. And whatever works for you is great. There's one. Look at that hole. So this is the same technique you would use if you were trying to actually remove a dandelion from your yard. The only way to stop a dandelion from coming up year after year is to remove the entire taproot. So, if you want a really good business plan, you can, start a business removing people's dandelions from their yard. You could get paid to weed people's yards, and then you could harvest your dandelion roots, dry them out, roast them, and then you could make dandelion coffee and sell that. Make yourself a little street side stand like lemonade. It's a good business plan. One man's trash is another man's treasure. It is a fair bit of work. Okay, come take a look. So I've basically dug straight down to the best of my ability with my curved stick all around the root, and I can feel that the root mass is loose, and I can feel where the taproot is. In fact, you can even see it here. And this is where I have to be really gentle, because if you snap it off right now, it's really hard to get the rest of it out and you'll have lost a lot of work. I picked a spot with pretty hard ground, which was maybe not the best choice. Ooh, and then there's another one coming off this way. I'm getting a 2-for-1. So this one actually is a little unusual because it's split in two. But there's my dandelion root. Might have lost a little bit of the end there. Okay, put that back. This one actually goes really deep. I don't know if I'll be able to get all of it. But it's cool because you can feel if you put your hand on the root and then you put your stick in the ground, you can feel when your stick is like right along the root, and then if I go like this, I should be able to snap it right really low. There it is. I'm satisfied with that. I don't think my digging stick is long enough and sharp enough to make it easy for me to get the whole root. Besides, now the dandelions will come back. It's a lot of work, but it's satisfying. Pro tip that I just learned. So I was digging up a couple dandelion roots, and then I felt these like sharp sensations on my hand, and I looked down and there were a bunch of teeny tiny little ants on my hand that were fiercely biting me. And I realized that I was starting to tunnel into some sort of an ant colony. So I delicately removed the roots and kind of covered it back up. But now I'm seeing that I need to get down and really look around the dandelion. And in areas where there's a lot of sand in the soil, you have these little holes in the ground. Looks like some of them are abandoned and some of them aren't. But it's probably good to look around and see who else might be living there before you start digging. And the other thing to always keep in mind, obviously, when you're harvesting is to do it with a spirit of gratitude. Even though there's a lot of dandelions and not everybody loves them, it's really important to remember that they're also living things. And so when you're taking a life, it's super important to just have a spirit of gratitude when you're doing it, so that you're thankful for that plant, for giving its life and becoming a part of your life. Okay, so I got my dandelion haul. I have about 11 beautiful dandelion roots. And next we're going to wash them off, and then we're going to cut them up. And you want to make sure that you wash them and cut them up before you dry them, because after you dry them, they're going to be really, really hard to slice. So you can save the leaves and the flowers. I'm going to put mine right into a smoothie container, and I'm going to make a really healthy smoothie. They are a little bit bitter, so if you're not very tolerant of bitter things, you might not want to put them all in at once. Okay, I've got my dandelion roots. This is just a small batch of sort of smaller roots. I would rather go out and harvest a larger batch in the fall when the plant is sending all of its energy into its roots. So for demonstration purposes, we're going to cut these up into little sections. Just like this. I'm going to put it on a cookie sheet. Probably more economical to harvest a whole cookie sheet of it before you put it in the oven for a few hours. It's not very energy efficient. But I'm going to put it in the oven at 200 degrees Fahrenheit for a few hours, depending on the size of your root, will affect how long you need to bake it. But the idea is right now we're dehydrating it. So we're trying to get all of the water out of the roots. And you'll know they're done when they're really crisp and dry and you can kind of snap them in your hands. Right now they're kind of squishy and spongy. Okay, these have been in the oven at 200 degrees Fahrenheit for about an hour. And they still have a little bit of sponginess to them. They've gotten a lot crispier. I'm going to give them maybe another 15 to 30 minutes. And then we're going to raise the heat. Okay, I've had my dandelion roots in the oven at 200 degrees Fahrenheit for about an hour and a half. And as you can see, they've shrunk a lot because they lost all their water content. And they're really nice and crispy and crunchy. So now it's time for me to put them back in at a higher temperature. So I'm raising it to 350 degrees. Sometimes it can take 45 minutes to an hour, I think, for thicker roots, but since mine are so small, I'm really going to watch them and make sure they don't burn. The idea here is that you're roasting them and you're trying to brown them. So this brings out kind of a sweeter flavor in it. I'm also adding in some acorns that I processed in the fall. These are also ready to be roasted. These also make a fantastic coffee substitute. So I'm going to put them both in together and we'll keep an eye on them. I just pulled my dandelion roots out of the oven and they're looking nice and toasty. Toasted them for, I don't know, I didn't exactly time it. It was probably about 40 minutes. They look real dry and my acorns look good too. And the smell that was coming out of the oven was amazing. Just really sweet and delicious. Now it's time to make some dandelion coffee.